In today's podcast, we're going to have a special weekly wrap-up edition where we cover the biggest news stories from the past week, along with unique actionable insights from those stories. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com, where we bring you the latest news regarding the Big Four, along with unique Big Four recruiting advice and the best Big Four career tips to help you with your Big Four career. Hope you enjoy the show. This week, at big4accountingfirms.com and on the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, we covered some pretty big news stories from both PwC and Deloitte. We'll highlight each story and then we'll go over some of the tips on how to take advantage of them in your career and in your recruiting. First, we'll talk about the PwC banking scandals. This week started out pretty grim with big new scandals that came out regarding PwC. They faced trouble from two of their past bank audits. First up, we covered PwC's private bank lawsuit, where a private bank sued PwC for not discovering an insider lending scheme. And that insider lending scheme ended up making private bank having to go private. Their country, Ukraine, took them private and nationalized them. The second accounting scandal that we covered regarding PwC was that they were facing the largest accounting malpractice verdict ever in their lawsuit with the FDIC regarding their audit of Colonial Bank. So those were the two podcasts that we had earlier this week. But what can we learn from each of those scandals? First off, they both involve large banks that went under. And both times, PwC failed to see the writing on the wall before the firms went under. So what can you do? Only you can prevent a bank from collapsing. Just kidding. I'm not going to suggest that you can prevent a huge bank from collapsing, but you can take steps to try and prevent this from happening if you are on a large client yourself. And one of the first things you can do is speak up in planning meetings. For instance, each of these audits that PwC conducted had to have planning meetings before the audit occurred. And at these planning meetings is where you should bring up any concerns that you might have about your client. For example, in the private bank audit, someone should have asked their lead audit partner how they could have prevented insider lending or what controls private banks should have had over insider lending. And controls over insider lending should be a fairly common control in the banking industry, or there should be some other compensating control for this. Another thing you can do is you can ask questions when your clients are facing hard times. In the Colonial Bank audit, PwC should have been taking extra measures when the U.S. economy took a slide back in 2007 and 2008, because Colonial Bank collapse occurred in 2009. If there is a downturn in the economy, you should be asking more questions of your clients and of your partners. You should ask your partners what they are doing to make sure that they can detect a downturn in business, or what controls their clients have to prevent management from overriding financial statement controls. Because when the economy slides, management sometimes tries to make the numbers look better than they actually are. Another thing that you should do is you should make sure that your partners are actually thinking about independence. You can ask your engagement team how they ensure that they can be independent during hard times in the economy. It is during these hard economic times where everyone feels the pain. And this includes the Big Four. The Big Four aren't just these completely independent, stoic organizations. They also crave profits. And they're like everybody else during hard economic times. They need additional profits because their revenues decrease as well. So they aren't necessarily going to be as diligent or as hard on clients during recessions either. They want more revenues from all their clients. Therefore, they don't ask as many questions or act as diligently as they should during downturns because they want to be nice to their clients, because they think being nice to their clients will help them win more work and get more revenues. I'm not encouraging you to call out your partners on the spot, but you should make sure that you ask questions in a positive way to help them understand that they should be addressing concerns that could impact the global brand of your firm. For example, missing misstatements or missing controls that should be there that aren't there that can prevent management from fudging the numbers during a downturn. And another thing you can use for your own personal benefit from these news stories is you can ask recruiters and partners how they deal with these scandals. If you are recruiting with PwC or another accounting firm, you can ask your recruiter or partner how they are reacting to the current accounting scandals impacting the Big Four. Additionally, you can ask the Big Four professionals how they manage stress when they see all the change going on and all the scandals that are currently happening in the accounting field. You can reference the change and disruption currently happening and say that times are moving fast. And you know it is hard for people to keep their cool during these times. So how do they do it? Another story that we covered this week was that PwC developed a cool virtual reality solution. PwC built this new solution that helps clients visualize change and disruption in their industry and in their business. And this is a huge news story, and everyone should be taking advantage of this for the benefit of their careers. Now, I don't want all of you to rush out there and build a new VR solution yourself or buy a VR headset. But you should be bringing up virtual reality in your discussions with fellow Big Four professionals and accountants. I guarantee you, virtual reality will only be used more and more by the Big Four, as the Big Four are quick to utilize the newest technologies to impress their clients and sell new solutions to them. In discussions with Big Four partners, you should get their thoughts on virtual reality and whether they consider it to be a good solution. You should also speak about how virtual reality is a valuable tool to help clients realize the dangers of technology to their business. By instilling fear in clients, the Big Four can sell more services, and more specifically, they can sell technology solutions like robotics and artificial intelligence. And putting on this VR headset and using technology to see future technologies will only help the Big Four accounting firms more and more. And the more you learn about it and think about it, the better you can speak to it when you speak to fellow Big Four professionals or Big Four partners or recruiters. Additionally, I think virtual reality will be used in conference calls and meetings at the Big Four in the future. Currently, one of the biggest parts of working at the Big Four is scheduling conference calls all the time. I'm constantly on calls. It's just part of the daily routine of working at the Big Four. And it used to just be phone conference calls. You just dial in a million numbers. But more and more, I'm using WebEx every single day. But I think this eventually will go more to just straight video calls, and then finally to using virtual reality headsets and augmented reality. This virtual reality and augmented reality will be utilized to interact with people in sort of a virtual conference room, but also we'll be able to work in spreadsheets and projects and PowerPoints through virtual reality, as opposed to just a desktop or over the phone and through WebEx. I think virtual reality is the way of the future in this area. And also feel free to bring up virtual reality at recruiting or networking events with other Big Four professionals. Start to bring up the implications of this new PwC solution in more of your conversations to show your knowledge of the changing technological landscape of accounting. And the last story that we covered this week was Deloitte CEO Cathy Engelbert's path to the top. And we covered this following a profile of her on Forbes.com. And in this article, she highlighted how she got to the top in a non-linear path, and that she is now trying to help other Deloitte employees and women get to the top. And I think there's a lot to learn from this article as well. First off, Cathy highlighted how hard her career path actually was. There were many times that she wanted to give up, but it was mentors at Deloitte that kept her head in the game and told her that she had potential. This is a key thing to consider in your career. You need to have people that support you and believe in you. And this is true for both women and men. There are going to be tough days where you can't raise your own spirits, but those are the type of days where you need support. And not only at home, but you need support at work. You need colleagues that believe in you and trust you and tell you that they believe in you and trust in you. And I think another thing that's important about this article is that Cathy doesn't highlight one accomplishment or one single approach that got her to where she is. This is huge because I think it gives a great insight into the Big Four. Getting to the top of the Big Four is a lot of politics, and it's not so much about getting work done. Political strategy and what I'll call Machiavellian scheming takes a lot out of an individual over a career. But that is what it takes to make it at the Big Four. Making it at the Big Four is not about being able to complete an insane amount of accounting technical work. It's not about your to-do list management. And it's not about being a perfect salesperson. All those things are important, but they're not the key to making it at the Big Four. It's more about being a smart political strategist and an ability to stick to your strategy until you make it. As you might have noticed in the Forbes article, Cathy didn't mention the one project that put her over the top, or the big client that she won that got her the title of Deloitte CEO. It was more about the variety of opportunities and the support that got her to the top. Taking various opportunities throughout your career puts you in touch with many people, not only within your Big Four firm, but at different clients. And this is key. You have to have support to get nominated to partner, and you have to have support to make it into leadership. Both positions are determined by votes. If you don't have support, you won't get voted into the partnership at the Big Four, and you definitely won't get elected into leadership. So how do you get these votes? You have to play the political game, and you have to have the numbers on your side. By hopping around to various groups and different industries, you gain more votes and more support than people that just stay put in one group. So take a page from Cathy's book and get started on building your support network today. Most likely, your path won't be easy either, but you can make it easier by building your supporting network today. And we obviously see ourselves as part of that support network. But before we end this podcast, I wanted to ask everyone if they could contribute to our Patreon page that we recently created. Contributing to our Patreon page will help us continue to create this podcast and continue to build it up and create better content. This will also help us keep this podcast ad-free for the foreseeable future. You can help us out today by being our first patron and contributing just $1. A link to our Patreon page is included in the show notes. Thanks for listening.
We appreciate your help in growing this podcast so we can continue to bring you the best Big Four content possible. You could help us out by providing a review on iTunes, sending us an email with your comments, and don't forget to share with your friends. There's a link below in the show notes. That's our show for today. Thanks for listening and have a great day.